Football is the most popular sport on Earth, played by over 250 million people in more than 200 countries. But in the entire history of the beautiful game, only a handful of players have transcended the sport, becoming not just great footballers, but global icons whose names will live forever. Today we count down the top 10 football players of all time, and number 1 is the player that almost every expert, every fan, and every fellow professional agrees is the greatest who ever lived. Stay with me. Welcome back to Late Sortie, where we launch into the world's most fascinating stories. Today we step onto the greatest stages in world football, from the World Cup to the Champions League, and count down the 10 men whose genius, brilliance, and greatness defined what it truly means to play the beautiful game. Let's get into it. Coming in at number 10, Zinedine Zidane. The son of Algerian immigrants who grew up in the tough neighborhoods of Marseille, Zinedine Zidane became one of the most elegant and devastating footballers the world has ever seen. He won the World Cup with France in 1998, producing a legendary performance in the final with two-headed goals. He won the European Championship in 2000. He won 3 Ballon d'Or awards, and then, in perhaps the single greatest moment in Champions League history, he volleyed home one of the most breathtaking goals ever scored to win the trophy for Real Madrid in 2002. Zidane played football like a ballet dancer, with grace, precision, and an almost supernatural ability to control the game at the highest level. He is widely regarded as the greatest big game player in the history of the sport. Number 9, Ronaldo Nazario. Not Cristiano Ronaldo. The original Ronaldo. A Brazilian. At his peak, between 1994 and 2002, there was not a single player on earth who could match Ronaldo Nazario for pure, devastating brilliance. His speed was electric. His skill was extraordinary. His finishing was clinical. And his ability to change a game in a single moment was unlike anything the world of football had ever witnessed. He won 2 World Cups with Brazil, in 1994 and 2002, and was named the tournament's best player in 2002 after returning from years of devastating injuries that would have ended most careers. He won 3 FIFA World Player of the Year awards. At his very best, Ronaldo Nazario was arguably the most complete and terrifying striker in the history of the game. Number 8, Johan Cruyff. There are players who changed games. There are players who changed clubs. And then there is Johan Cruyff, the Dutchman who changed football itself. As a player, Cruyff won 3 consecutive European Cups with Ajax from 1971 to 1973, 3 Ballon d'Or awards, and led the Netherlands to the World Cup final in 1974, where his team played a brand of football so revolutionary it became known simply as total football. As a manager, he transformed Barcelona into one of the greatest clubs in the history of sport, laying the foundations of the tiki-taka style that would dominate world football for a decade. No player in history has had a greater influence on how football is played and understood. Johan Cruyff did not just play the game. He reinvented it. Number 7, Ronaldinho. If football is the beautiful game, then Ronaldinho was its most beautiful player. The Brazilian from Porto Alegre played football with a joy, a creativity, and a freedom that made the entire world fall in love with the sport. He won the World Cup with Brazil in 2002. He won 2 Ballon d'Or awards, in 2004 and 2005. He won the Champions League with Barcelona in 2006. But statistics alone cannot capture what made Ronaldinho special. It was the flicks, the no-look passes, the impossible dribbles that left defenders sitting on the turf while the crowd gasped in disbelief. It was the smile, always the smile, the pure joy of a man who played football the way a child plays in the street. There has never been anyone quite like Ronaldinho. And there never will be. Number 6, Franz Beckenbauer. They called him Der Kaiser, the Emperor. And the name was perfectly chosen. Franz Beckenbauer played football with an authority, an elegance, and an intelligence that made him the greatest defender in the history of the sport. He revolutionized the sweeper position, transforming what had been a purely defensive role into a platform for launching attacks and controlling games. He won the World Cup with West Germany as a player in 1974, and then again as manager in 1990, making him one of only 3 men in history to win the World Cup as both player and manager. He won 3 consecutive European Cups with Bayern Munich from 1974 to 1976. He won 2 Ballon d'Or awards. Franz Beckenbauer did not just defend. He conducted. Number 5. Cristiano Ronaldo. There has never been an athlete in the history of football who has combined natural talent with manufactured excellence quite like Cristiano Ronaldo. Born in Madeira, Portugal, Ronaldo arrived at Manchester United as a teenager of extraordinary promise, and through sheer relentless dedication to improvement, became one of the 2 greatest players the game has ever produced. 5 Champions League titles. 5 Ballon d'Or awards. League titles in England, Spain, Italy, and Portugal. Portugal's all-time leading scorer and the all-time leading scorer in the history of men's international football, with over 130 international goals. Ronaldo's physical perfection, his technical brilliance, and his supernatural ability to score goals in the biggest moments of the biggest games have made him a legend without equal, a player who refused to accept any limit on what human dedication could achieve. Number 4. Pelé. For most of the 20th century, Pelé was simply the answer to the question, who is the greatest footballer of all time? The Brazilian from Três Corações won 3 World Cups, in 1958, 1962, and 1970, the only player in history to do so. He scored over 1,000 goals in his career, a figure that remains staggering regardless of the era. He won 2 Copa Libertadores and numerous Brazilian league titles with Santos. He made his World Cup debut at the age of 17, scoring 6 goals including a hat-trick in the semi-final and 2 in the final, and the world has never forgotten it. In 1999, the International Olympic Committee named Pelé the Athlete of the Century. He was not just a footballer. He was football. Number 3. Diego Maradona. Football has never produced a more complex, more contradictory, or more purely brilliant figure than Diego Armando Maradona. Born in the Villa Fiorito slum on the outskirts of Buenos Aires, Maradona rose from poverty to become the most electrifying player of his generation, and the driving force behind Argentina's greatest triumph. In the 1986 World Cup in Mexico, Maradona produced what is widely regarded as the greatest individual tournament performance in the history of the sport. His goal against England in the quarter-final, where he dribbled from his own half past 5 England players and the goalkeeper, was voted the goal of the century in a worldwide poll. His other goal in the same match, the infamous Hand of God, showed a different side of the man entirely. He single-handedly dragged Napoli, a club from the impoverished south of Italy, to 2 Serie A titles and a UEFA Cup. Diego Maradona was not the best-behaved man in football. But in his greatest moments, he was the greatest player who ever lived. Number 2. Lionel Messi. A boy from Rosario, Argentina, who was diagnosed with a growth hormone deficiency at the age of 10, and whose treatment was paid for by Barcelona Football Club in exchange for signing him to their academy. What followed is the greatest individual career in the history of the sport. 8 Ballon d'Or awards, more than any player in history. For Champions League titles with Barcelona. 10 La Liga titles. 7 Copa del Rey titles. Argentina's all-time leading scorer. And finally, in Qatar in December 2022, the one trophy that had eluded him. The World Cup. The moment Messi lifted the World Cup trophy in Lusail Stadium, many felt they were witnessing the final act of the greatest career football has ever seen. Messi did not just play football brilliantly. He played it beautifully, with a vision, a touch, and a genius that made every person who watched him feel privileged to be alive at the same time. Number 1. Pelé, wait. This is the debate that never ends. And our number 1 is Lionel Messi. We know the debate will never truly end. We know that Maradona supporters will argue passionately and brilliantly for their man. We know that Pelé's legacy spans generations. We know that Cristiano Ronaldo's dedication and achievement demand respect and admiration. But when you look at the complete body of evidence, the 8 Ballon d'Or awards, the 4 Champions Leagues, the 10 La Liga titles, the Copa America, the Finalissima, and above all, the 2022 World Cup in Qatar, where Messi carried Argentina on his back through the most dramatic final in the tournament's history, the conclusion is inescapable. Lionel Messi is the greatest football player who has ever lived. Not because of one tournament. Not because of one goal, but because for 20 years, at the very highest level of the sport, he was consistently, breathtakingly, impossibly better than everyone else. The boy from Rosario who almost never made it. The player Barcelona bet everything on. The man who gave football its greatest gift. Lionel Messi. The GOAT. And that is our top 10 football players of all time. From Zidane's elegance to Maradona's brilliance to Messi's genius, these 10 men gave the world something that transcends sport. They gave us moments of pure, unforgettable beauty. Do you agree with our list? Who would you have at number 1? Let the debate begin in the comments below. We read every single one. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to Late Sortie. We launch new top 10 videos every week. This has been Late Sortie. The mission continues. To God be the glory.